All right, thank you for staying with us. The recent meeting of the Southwest governors has yielded significant outcomes with a strong focus on good governance and regional cooperation. The governors who met to discuss pressing regional issues agreed to establish a joint security outfit to tackle the rising insecurity in the region. This move is aimed at enhancing the safety and security of citizens, which is a critical aspect of good governance. In addition to the security initiative, the governors also resolved to establish joint food hubs to address increasing food inflation and associated challenges in the region. This effort is expected to improve food security, reduce poverty, and promote economic growth. The meeting also highlighted the importance of good governance in achieving regional development. Well, joining us in the studio to provide expert analysis is the Executive Chairman of the Nigerian Capital Development Fund, Hareter Oralusi. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. Now, let's take it back in time to the era of Chief Obafemi Awolowo and then the Western region. We knew how popular it was at the time and the effort he put in place when you're talking about good governance, his policies, a lot of persons would say were people-centric, and the way he drove all of that. Now, when you compare that time and now, there's a huge gap, and there are those who have said that the progression or the progress we knew at that time just tickled or whittled down. What happened? How did we find ourselves at this point?
Well, I think the major issue I could identify technically is the military era. You know, the coming in of the military in the 80s actually took us back quite a lot, and that destroyed the structure of the Obafemi Awolowo and co. The truth is that they are more visionary. They know what they want, and they are actually leaders that emerge naturally. The process of us bringing up leaders today is, you can't get the best out of that.
Really?
No, because leaders emerges naturally. But
perhaps you need to expatiate that.
Yes, when you now want to enforce someone to become a leader, instead of quality, is about personal interest. So the good people, the quality people do not emerge anymore. The processes are more complicated, and if you really want to serve, sometimes you just feel like, why am I bothering myself? You don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to get involved in certain things, and you just let it be. But during the era of Awolowo, they are visionaries, they are brilliant. They emerge naturally based on their qualities, based on their visions. So there are constructive campaigns. There are a lot of things in place. So I think coupled with the military era of doing things with decree, not democratic process, then we have this setback, and everybody built on that, and it becomes personal. Technically, government is becoming personal businesses of some certain people who wants to keep, using the avenue to empower and enrich themselves.
Well, others might disagree with you because they'll say that for different centuries, there are different leaders that come up. It may be that our current generation, we might be lacking that as much as we want to compare with the previous generation. But others will say even during the Obafemi Awolowo, era, a lot of people disagreed with him, with his policies, and everything. Could it just be that we don't necessarily have to wait for those leaders? We have to just look at ourselves and be leaders in our own right, because if we do not do things right, how do we expect one person, maybe under the guise of, or under the umbrella of leadership, we expect the person to take us to the El Dorado?
Thank you very much. Now we're talking about leaders and their own responsibility. Has nothing to do with the citizens and own responsibility. It takes two to tango.
Right.
When you say you have people opposing Obafemi Awolowo, that's part of democracy. That makes it sweet. you contest, you argue, and you come out with the best. That's the purpose. So if you do not want opposition and you want to lead, you are not really prepared, then you want to be a dictator. That's what I mean by the military. That's what makes the military different, where somebody says it and nobody can argue it, and that is it. It decrees it. But if you want to be democratic, obviously there are people who are against you. So that was part of it. It's not against it. It makes it so it. On the side of the citizens, there is no country in the world where only government develops. Everybody have roles to play. And basically, we have what you also call another crisis we have also, we ignore it, but it's very critical. It's post-colonial crisis.
Right.
There are strategies put in place to sustain, to make sure that we are not independent and we still carrying it on. And it has to do with our mind. If you don't love your country, if you don't believe in your country, you can't get the best out of your country. If you say much negative about your country and you are not interested and only negative, you can't have the best of your country.
Right.
So the citizens also have both physical and spiritual obligations to come and understand that, look, this is our country and it has to work. And the citizen can also hold the leaders accountable, but in a democratic manner, not in, just doing something that doesn't make sense, getting attention, no. But constructively, citizens have citizens have more role to play. That's the truth.
All right, let's get back to what we're seeing the Southwest governors of this era trying to do in terms of addressing the security challenges that the region is facing. They met and they thought that it was important to have to use technology to also address these matters. We already know that we have Amotekun, although it's not regional because some of the governors adopted that, or some states adopted that, but Lagos, for instance, did not adopt Amotekun. But here we are now, they want to incorporate another level to this matter of addressing security. How much of a difference does this make from your perspective, the steps that they are taking?
It's a good steps. I mean, this is expected earlier than now. Because during the last protest, I saw some protesters going to protest in the state house, and I saw some governors saying, okay, we will deliver your message to the Mr. President. And the question I ask myself is that, who is asking you about Mr. President? They are asking you to account, to tell them about the resources you've received and what you've done with it to make this state progress, move forward. And the problem is we are very conventional and everybody comes in and apply the same thing and keep repeating the same thing. Yeah. The government, the governors have roles to play. The regions have role to play in the development. Everyone, like we said, even the citizens have role to play. Okay, look at the United States. You see states like California, very rich, sustainable, but they also have the region. And when you go to each region, you see that the style is very similar when it comes to the region. So it is part of, if you want to have a full democratic system, I think, we adopted the American model. True federalism should include the regional development. It is critical. Look at the political parties, how they have ward chairman, they have local government chairman, they have state chairman, they have vice president south or vice president north or deputy. So if you understand that in politics, why can't we in the governance? Don't you think it's because you want the structure to be sustainable, that's why I introduced that? It's not just like that. So why do we remove it in the democratic settings? Why we now put it in the political structure? So it is critical that we have region, and that is very commendable for Mr. President of establishing a regional development commission, because that will make a lot of impact, because each region have its own peculiarity, and that peculiarity could be turned into the both economic, social development in the society.
So this is a sort of way of introducing restructuring that a lot of Nigerians have been speaking about.
Of course, that is restructuring. That is restructuring. So I agree. In the, like you're already saying, the security aspect of it is going to make impact. In the economic part of it, it's going to make impact. And that was what you mentioned when you mentioned the issue of Awolowo. Those are the structure that were used then, the regional structure.
Right.
And we collectively know, okay, in this region, what is the strength, what can Itikiti brings on board, what can Osun brings in, how can we integrate this? And so, including Amoteku, no Amoteku, even if they, Mr. President also, you know, they are pushing for the state police right now. Yeah. So if you are talking about restructuring, somebody was, one of these Yoruba Nation persons calls me and say, oh, what we want is Yoruba Nation. I said, okay, why do you want Yoruba Nation? Because of restructuring. I said, what the president is doing, what is the name it's called? So you have to go your own way, just the way you describe it, or by violent, or no. Mr. President has technically restructured. If the National Assembly could pass this, restructuring has come, and that would really, really impact and accelerate the development of Nigeria.
Well, other people are seeing it differently. They argue that the Southwest development is quite uneven. For instance, if you look at states like Ekiti and Osun, they're lagging behind Lagos and Ogun State in terms of infrastructure and investment, in fact, even revenue generation. So how do you think this regional development agenda can ensure equitable growth among all southwestern states, especially for those with weaker economies? Okay,
I'll give you an example of economy where we take most of our model. Like United States, you have states like Delaware, very small, and no resources. You have states like New York. But how does Delaware make money within the region? Delaware started, look at what they have and say, okay, if you come to Delaware and incorporate your company, you pay no tax, you just pay state tax. So every average American, regardless of the state where they are, they incorporate their company in Delaware. So Delaware makes millions of dollars every year, every month from just incorporation. So there's nothing like a state is at disadvantage. It depends on the people that runs the state. What vision do they have? Do they think outside the box? There's no state, even in the north, that cannot generate. It depends on the people. Creativity is leadership. Creativity in leadership is critical. If you have your states, and you know, okay, Lagos State, you can't call Lagos State have, even the port alone, you know, there are natural advantages that is not by, So it doesn't mean that those ones, I school in Austria. Austria does not have any natural resources, but it's the number 5th best country in the world. So how did you come about that? They have the best transportation system in the world, but they don't have no drop of oil, no gold. So what do? So developing in Nigeria or being a governor, you want to be a leader, is not to come and empower yourself.
Right.
That's where Awolowo issue and others comes back in again. Yes. If you come for development, you will find development.
Absolutely, because the matter of how Awolowo developed the Western region without oil money at the time comes to the fore, cocoa and all of it. Now we are looking at, we're focusing on food security now, and the governors are saying we need to have food hubs and all of that. What kind of structure do you think would work that they need to put in place to ensure that the success of this vision is achieved?
Well, I think the structure we need, the Mr. President is already doing something great about that. One is we start from the ward, from the local government. Also, local governments have their peculiarities and advantages. It depends on the people there. So it's a bottom up. And when it's local government comes together in a state, if they have 30 local government, they can identify what they have, and the state can bring it to the regional level. So you can't just sit down and say, oh, governors, we've met, this is what we're going to do. No. Like you said, everybody have roles to play. They have to identify if it is genuine. In terms of security, that's understandable. It may be Amotekun is adopted, state police is implemented. Those measures will really reduce the level of insecurity in Nigeria. That is very critical. But when it comes to the economic aspect of it, I've done some work where some certain type of fruit grows in some environment naturally, whereby creating a juice hub in such an environment, investing in machineries in that local government to produce massive juice and dry it and export it, it could be millions of dollars revenue. But do these people really want to work? Because that's require a lot of work. So the structure is not what I can say, oh, this is the structure on the television, but the structure is to have a comprehensive conference, workshop, which will include the ward councillors, the local government chairman, and the state government. That comes together at the state level initially. What do we have? Where is our way forward? Then when that is done, then the leaders, that's the governors in the region, comes together with the blueprint, and this is what we can add as value. This is what then structures can emerge.
And you do not think the current crop of leadership, just like you started off, on that note, we have different political affiliations, Ogun State, Lagos State, Ekiti State, they are APC. You have Osun State, Oyo State, PDP. And you have these people contending among themselves, wanting to outshine the other, that yes, our party's manifesto is manifesting the way we want it. So do you not feel that this might be a problem in the long run? And that is one. The second one, which I have in mind because of time, is funding. How possible do you think they're going to mop up a lot of funding to execute all of their plans? Because Lagos State, for instance, the debt profile stands at 1 trillion as of 2023.
Yes.
So how do they do the funding?
Well, the debt should be vis-a-vis the income. And the figure of the debts might not necessarily threaten if the income can sustain the debt. Look, what we need in Nigeria basically is direct foreign investment, because we are not as rich as we think as a country. But because it is being personalized, resources is enough for a certain number of people who wants to manage it for their personal use. And they try to now use that to influence others. But if we really want to be sincere with ourselves, every state should be able to attract investment based on cluster. This is what we have in our states. We have natural resources, work with the federal government to invite investors who will come in there. We have this, we have that. You could see the model of Dubai. As of 1976, Dubai wrote to Nigeria. I saw the letter requesting for a loan. But where is Dubai today? I mean, UAE, where is Nigeria today? Nigeria was so much, much better than UAE as of 1976.
Is UAE a democracy?
Of course. Democracy is not about, what is not democratic about it? Look, one of the problems we have is that we brought in American democratic system, we adopt it without considering our local content. So if it is going to be, we're going to bring in and looking at what is most suitable for us and incorporate it and have our home model, it will have been a different thing. But now we just adopted the Senate, the rep. Why are you having the same thing? California economy is bigger than the whole Nigerian economy, and you're having the same number of structure they are having. How do you fund it? Do you consider your own resources and revenue before just adopting exactly what a state in America can buy Nigeria? Even, I'm sure, the last time I checked, the police budget in California and the Nigerian budget was the same thing. And do you want to run the same expenses they run in terms of democratic process? So you cannot say this is it until you sit down and do the necessary analysis. Our cost of governance is too high. It's too high, it's not sustainable.
Right.
No.
So what are you projecting now at the end of the day with this move by the governors? Are you optimistic that they are willing to do the work and get the right results?
When you want to do the work, you must put politics on one side, and national development must be number one. If it's still done based on political and... Haven't
they shown that with all of them coming on?
Like I said, it's a welcome development. It's good. I give them the credit for coming up to do that. At least you have to encourage people. Even if they've not been doing that before and they start doing it, we still need to give them that kudos. Like, okay, you have started a good move, but I want to go to university and I've gotten admission. Doesn't mean that you will pass at the end of the day. To pass, you have to read.
Absolutely.
Good. So if they have to sustain and have to get good result out of this, they have to do good, real hard work. They have to set up the structure genuinely. And that's where the problem is. not sentiment.
I'd like for you to expatiate on this matter of genuineness, because it seems you have some reservation that you don't want to vocalize, but then that's why you're here.
Yeah, no, it's not about reservation, but I see some of them sometimes like they are too petty with the statements. Like I read one statement yesterday of a court judgment, and somebody is saying because somebody is in news of president. In a normal, ideal democratic settings, even if you get a court judgment of competent court of jurisdiction like appeal court, and I am a citizen, I have the right to get to the police and say, okay, this is my judgment, and they are not giving me my right. So when you're not president because somebody is a nephew, and you think, I would believe that such person also have the capacity to implement rapid development of the country, I don't believe so. If they really go out of this, their bias and sentiment, and know that governor, these Nigerians are the one, the grassroots are the ones suffering. They are the one being impacted on a daily basis with this level of you like call it, or maybe they require human capacity development, I don't know. But you just have to see that if we have to help the grassroots in Nigeria, look, Mr. President has done something. He came into a house. This house is sinking. And the option is either you allow the house to continue to sink or they reconstruct the house. But when they're reconstructing the house, that means people need to move out. So probably during this process, people may be homeless.
Right.
So that is what happened in Nigeria now, and people are crying. But by the time the house is reconstructed and people moving fully,
they enjoy the facility.
All right.
So that is the situation, that's the level of seriousness I've seen there. So it's very difficult to see first-time president or first-time leader that would take such a bold step, which will be influence your future. So if you see the governors like that, who could take such a bold step without,
any sentiments,
then we will get to them.
We should be patient. We'll have to leave the conversation here now. Hareter Oralusi, Executive Chairman, Nigerian Capital Development Fund. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you.
All right. Now, still to come on the show, we will take a breather. When we return, we'll dive into